let's listen.
Are you the least bit embarrassed by the fact that you're a success within a year?
Not at all. The quicker the better.
How did you go about doing this? You worked the club circuit here?
Well, what we did was we got together and we went into the studio and got the best tape we could get, really. We worked the club some, but the tape really clinched the deal for us.
Who writes the songs?
Bill does most of the writing.
I should ask you what's next.
We have a song called Let 'Em Go. It'll be our next single.
Ladies and gentlemen, Animotion!
Welcome to Man on the Street. We are on the 80s Cruise 2024, and we are very lucky to be joined by the faces of the band Animotion. It's Bill Wadhams and Astrid Plane. Thank you both for being on Man on the Street. How are you?
Jamie, it's a pleasure to be here with you on Man on the Street. I love running into you wherever we go, enjoying the 80s music, and remember bumping into you on Catalina, and that was such a thrill.
Bill and Astrid, I always like to, on this show, talk about places and time. And let's go back to 1984, place Madame Wong's. There's two bands there. There's this Red Zone kind of retro science fiction band and this other band, Billy Bond Band. And this is kind of something comes together there. Can you talk about that?
Well, yeah, it was a night at Madame Wong's West in Los Angeles, and it was a great time for music in L.A. because there were so many bands coming through the Troubadour, Madame Wong's, and other venues. And that night, I walked in preparing to play my gig, and I saw Astrid in her band Red Zone, and they were very theatrical. They had amazing costumes, and they had flashing lights that the leader of the band had built by himself, these LEDs, that all spacey stuff. I mean, Astrid could tell you a lot more about that. But I was impressed by that band, but I never imagined that I would be singing with this woman up the road. So that was, it was just a glimpse, my first glimpse of Astrid.
Astrid, I read that you came up with the name of the band. You put a couple of words together, but I was wondering, is that something that just popped into your head, or was that something you thought about for a while and then said, boom, okay?
Yeah, it took a few days. I knew that I wanted to have a name that was very expressive about who we were musically and the vibe of the band. And I was thinking that I wanted it to be animated and emotional. And I knew there was a name there somewhere, but it took me a few days. I just knew that if I just kind of kept going around in my imagination, it would finally click in. I think it took about 3 or 4 days.
So 1984, the self-titled debut album comes out with the two hits, Obsession and Let Him Go. And that takes off. Everything takes off in 84. And those songs go into the top 40, I think, on the Billboard Hot 100. And then 2 years later, the second album comes out, Strange Behavior. And in the U.S. doesn't do as well, but does great in other parts of the world, Switzerland, South Africa, places like that. I was just wondering, what do you think it was that, did music change a lot between 84 and 86 in the U.S.? Or was there not those two big radio hits? What was the difference between the debut, and the second album, do you think?
Well, the difference is that the president of our record company was under investigation for payola, bribing radio stations to play songs. Now, you may have heard about this. There's a book called Hitmen. Before this event happened of them looking into payola in the music business, pay to play, we sat down with the president of the record and a couple other people after a gig in New York City, and they told us this will be the biggest album of the year for our label, and we were like thrilled. But then this iEngineer came out, started to climb the charts, and then just disappeared. And I asked someone in the record company what happened. He said, well, because of these federal investigations, our label has announced that we're not using any independent promoters. And it was the independent promoters that were doing all the legwork. Now, whether they were paying radio people to play or not, I don't know. I don't know anything about that. But I was told by the record company that our record was not even getting into a lot of radio stations, and it has to make it to the radio station to get played, or for those people to say, hey, this next album by Animotion is great. Here it is. Here's our new single. So I think it was a very unfortunate bit of timing that our label was embroiled in this conflict, and they also told us, you know, they have a band called Level 42 that no one had ever heard of, and it was a European band close to where the home base of our record company was, and they were saying, we're having to prioritize, and the top guys have told us, you have to push Level 42, and we became a lesser priority that year. And so I think that's what it was. I don't think it had to do with that the fans weren't there for us. I just think that our record company didn't have the manpower to do the same job they did the year before.
Between 86 and 87, you guys went on tour with some big bands. Depeche Mode, Phil Collins, Howard Jones, Simply Red, In Excess, Eurythmics. Can you tell us anything, like any stories, or just about being on the road with those kind of level of bands? It must have been amazing.
Well, I have one particular memory of when we went to Switzerland to do the Montreux Rock Festival, which was very prestigious, but also an incredibly beautiful place to go to. And so we eventually made it to this town which was on the water, and it's Switzerland, so everything is pristine, and we were on the edge of the water with all these tulips everywhere that were precisely color-coded. There could not be one red tulip in amongst the yellow ones, or they'd take it out, and we were able to walk around the Lake of Geneva and go along into a castle. Now, I'm digressing from the whole music thing, but I'm just setting the scene. And then walking around the town and bumping into people like Phil Collins on the street, and then going backstage and being ready to perform. And I do remember, Bill, do you remember this controversy about who's going to sing live? And you've got a great story where Bill was kind of ragging on some of the singers for being too chicken to use live vocals. We said, okay, you insist on us using tracks, but I tell you what, we're going to really sing this song, whereas many didn't.
So Animotion in any form, it sounds like it ended around 88 and really didn't come back into play until about 2001. Something happened with a Portland radio station. But can you talk about that period? What was going on between 88 and 2001? Was anybody talking with anybody? Was music being made, or was it just silence for the band until that point? And maybe about what happened with this Portland radio station.
You know, I think 88, 89... At that point in time, Astrid had a new band. What was the name of it?
Plain English.
Plain English, that's right. So Astrid was Astrid was focused on her band. I was writing for sure and trying to get a solo deal. And I came very close. At one point, a producer called me on Easter and said, "Bill, I've heard your demo. We're going to make a record." You know, and this guy had worked with Duran Duran and Tracy Chapman and a number of other people, and I thought, oh my God, this is it. I'm going to take off. But it didn't happen. He strung me along for some months, and then there was no deal. And then I moved to Vancouver, British Columbia from Los Angeles just to breathe some wide open air and have a change of scene and see how that would affect my life. And I was up there for a while. Then I moved down to Portland, Oregon. My parents were living close to where Astrid was living, and so one time I came down to visit my parents, and I contacted Astrid and said, "Hey, do you want to go like have a cocktail or have a beer or a cup of tea, a coffee, and debrief?" And she was open to it, so we got together, and really the ice melted pretty quickly. I think that we basically. I think we agreed that Animotion as an entity, as an artist that we are part of, was worth rekindling. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know how it was going to happen, but we were just open to it. We talked through our differences, and we said, well, if an opportunity comes up, let's see what we can do. And then that opportunity came up in about 2000, 2001, when a radio station invited me to attend a big 80s event. And he was going to give me some money. And I said, if you're going to give me money, let me see if I can get Astrid to come up and do it with me. And that was, so they said, yeah. They even said, can we get the whole band together? And I said, well, what have you got in your pocket? So sure enough, they flew everybody to Portland, put us up in a nice hotel. We played a gig, and then we sat back in the lobby of the hotel going, okay. And it was like the Little Rascals. It was kind of like, I'll find a booking agent. Hey, I can build a website. I'll do this, and I can do that. And we were back together, and within a year, we were playing on stages again.
So you performed at the Cruel World Festival. That's in 2023. That's the big one. There's one coming up soon here. But talk about Cruel World and your experience there.
Well, Cruel World was a one-in-a-lifetime experience because it was kind of like upper-level rock star situation where we're taken on in golf carts to the artist compound. Every artist had their own trailer, which was beautifully decorated, and little flowers outside the door. And literally, our trailer was next to Billy Idol's trailer. So he had his whole entourage going on there, and all around the compound, which was beautifully catered, and the weather was perfect. There was a little garden area with shade where we could sit with our friends and just chill and wait for our turn to play. And when we wanted to go to a stage, we all got on a golf cart and were taken to wherever we wanted to go and see a band. What was thrilling to me was to be on the same stage as Billy Idol. I mean, I've always kind of had a crush on Billy, and let's face it, he's a real rock star. And to know that we were just up there, and that in that moment where we were up there on stage, I could look out on the audience and see nothing but people to the end of the horizon. It was a huge audience. I don't know how many thousands of people. But in that moment, as I was walking across the stage, I felt like I'm home. This is home to me. I don't ever get nervous. I just feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and it felt so wonderful. And then to get off stage and know that Billy's up next after me. And I got such a kick out of him coming up on stage and doing a fabulous show, but also bringing his grandchild called Poppy out on the stage, and she was like 3 years old, and he said, I want you to meet Poppy. Can we all sing happy birthday to Poppy? It's her birthday. And it was just so adorable and not Billy Idolish at all, but just made him even more likable to me.
I want to thank Astrid and Bill from Animotion for joining me today on Man on the Street. And check out their website, animotion.band, for where they're going to be this summer. Go out and see them. They are still amazing. And check me out in the next episode of Man on the Street, and also on villageradio.net, 7 to 9 Eastern, 4 to 6 Pacific, Monday through Friday. Take care, everyone.